Hey everyone, thanks for joining today. You're probably wondering why you're seeing the back of one of my racks right now, and that's what today's video is going to be all about. As the video description alludes, I had something that burnt out on me today. So we're going to dive into this a little bit, so stick around. I'm Jack, and you're watching Python Addiction. Hey everyone, you're probably wondering why I'm tearing apart the back of my rack right now. And the truth of that is right here. You probably can't see it right this second, but we will take care of that. As you'll probably see real easy, we have a burn spot right on this heat tape right here. And that means it failed. So that's what we're going to be kind of discussing a little bit today as I first go ahead and pull this out completely. And then I'm going to talk to you guys about what happened here and to give you guys advanced warning, no snakes were harmed with this, thankfully. But we'll go into that a little bit more. So let me get this out real quick, and then I'll be right with you guys. So here we are, guys. Long story short, what happened is heat tape failed. It failed catastrophically. And if I was not in the room when this actually happened, this could have potentially been disastrous. Thankfully, I come in here regularly, and I was in here filling up water dishes, getting ready to feed some of my snakes, and smelt something melting. And that is because that's the bottom part of the bin for my lesser ghost girl, Luna. One of my older girls, that was her bin. And here's a quick picture of the underside of that bin as it's in the other room right now going into the trash. I am at a loss for words at just how lucky and how much of a bullet I dodged here, because this could have been very, very bad. But I wanted to use this as kind of a teaching moment, because even with somebody like myself who's a small-time breeder or the larger breeders, it goes to show importance of why maintenance and regularly checking these types of things when it comes to your heat tape and everything like that is vitally important. And this is also a reason why you need a quality thermostat. This shorting out the way that it shorted out would have just kept going, because there's no complete shortage in the actual bus lines here. This would have kept heating up and eventually caused an actual fire if the thermostats that I used didn't catch that it was overheating and that I was able to, because I was right in the room thankfully at the time, smell the smoke and turn off the power right then and there. There are several safety features that some of the more quality thermostats have to make sure that things like this, not that they don't happen, because they can happen even with a quality thermostat, but that you get alerted via an alarm or whatever the case may be quickly enough. Again, I'm grateful because I use the Inkbird thermostats personally. It sends off an alarm even though I can't hear the alarms because of my deafness. I use the alarm feature with my Alexas to where it still sends me notifications. That sends me notifications when an alarm goes off in this room. And then, thankfully, this time around, I was actually in the room when this happened. But I also have circuit protection to where if there's an alarm of any sort like that, the power can get shut off immediately. So if you ever experienced this in the past yourself or know somebody who has, I would like to know about it. Let me know in the comments below. Let the community understand that this can happen to anybody. And like I said, I'm grateful that I was in the room and that Luna was on the front side of her enclosure at the time that this happened and not directly on top of or near her heat tape, because this could have caused severe burns and that could have potentially cost her her life. So that's one of the things that you always have to take into consideration when you're dealing with reptiles and you're dealing with heat tape and everything like that, that there's always going to be the potential, not that this is necessarily a bad product or anything like that, but that this type of stuff needs to be replaced regularly to help prevent these types of failures. And this is something that I was going to be going through and scheduled to replace next year, a year later than I normally replace heat tape. In general, I replace all of the heat tape in all of my racks every 2 to 3 years. This is stuff that I had deemed to be good enough when I got these particular racks, and I let it go. And I'm paying for it now. So if you're somebody that's getting into the breeding aspect of things, you want to take that into consideration when you're getting racks, when you're looking at what you want to use as far as where you're housing your males and your females and everything like that, whether you're going to use large enclosures and keep it very small, or if you're going to use racks or a combination thereof, that you want to budget in the aspect of inspecting your heat tape regularly, making sure that you're not getting any brown spots, you're not getting any burn spots or marks or anything like that, making sure that you're getting quality heat tape. I get all of mine through Reptile Basics. They are not the only manufacturer of this stuff. This stuff is actually from another company. I'm not sure exactly the brand name right off the top of my head, but this is a slightly different product than what I use personally. This has more of a paperish type backing on the back, and is just the lamination is on the front. The stuff that I use is the TEG stuff from Reptile Basics. They're both essentially about the same thing, but it's making sure that you're getting a quality product and that you're changing it every few years, even if it's still good, because this can happen, this type of failure can happen at any time. And how did this fail exactly? 100%, I can't give you a exact 100% why this failed, but I can tell you it probably failed uh, due to one of these little segments, because this is essentially uh, a type of ink for all intents and purposes that allows current to pass through it, because the top bar and the bottom bar are it's your bus bars. This is where the electricity passes through, and this area here, it provides a resistance factor, and when you put resistance on electricity, you generate heat. And this stuff is not perfect. It's great for generating heat, but it can degrade over time. And because it can degrade, it can overheat or cause a imbalance in the electrical current that's going through it to where it needs more current to continue to work, and that can cause it to essentially short out or get so hot that it starts burning instead of anything else. How can you prevent this from ever happening? You can't. You can get, like I was saying earlier, quality thermostats that have some short circuit prevention features in it, to where if your heat tape goes from a consistent power draw to immediately requiring more power because part of this failed, a lot of the Herbstats and the VE thermostats have that type of short circuit prevention kind of built into it. Having multiple sensors, as you saw this, I actually had to cut this off to get it. This was a whole run that was in that particular rack. There was a Sea Serpent rack, and this is probably the original stuff that got put into the rack itself that's going to have to be replaced. Yeah, I cut off the bad part, but this whole thing is now bad. So this whole thing has to go. It's going to get completely replaced, because you can even see that it was starting to heat up, probably from this failure, throughout the entire tape. So if I didn't have the power cut when I did, this would have literally carried through to the entire rack, because it becomes a chain reaction. And that's why I say I dodged a bullet with this. Most of the other racks that I have in here currently all have brand new heat tape from the last year, because I replaced most of them as I actually built and moved everything into the reptile room here. So I don't have to worry so much about all of that, but I do have to worry about this. And as you saw in that little opening cutscene, it wasn't that hard to get access to this to pull it out. So when it comes to replacing, it's not the end of the world. If you're somebody that has like the ARS caging, the big racks that they have, their heat tape are actually already in metal panels, and I suggest that those get replaced just as often as something like what I'm using with the PVC, because their panels, even though they're encased with metal, have this running right through it. They're just, they create a whole little encased unit, so they can have one on each level. It's all the same heat tape though, and the different versions that they have, some of them have insulation in it, some of them don't, and it provides a little bit of an extra fire block, to where if this type of thing happens inside of their little enclosure, it's self-contained, so it's not going to bleed through as much, but it can still potentially melt the bottom of the tub if it's not caught in time, or depending on the actual type of failure that happens within the heat tape itself. But there's, again, I would replace those. Some people will say, oh no, they're good for years and years and years. It's not my opinion when it comes to something like this that you should wait years and years and years or until you have a failure to actually replace it. It's definitely a good idea, in my opinion, to replace it regularly, as it gives you a little bit of an assurance that the longevity of this chemical compounded I don't know exactly what it is, but this type of ink. If you're somebody who's an electrical engineer or somebody like that who actually knows exactly what this the trace material is that's in these types of heat tape, let us know in the comments below. I would like to know exactly what it is, but I know that it's a type of ink essentially that gets printed down. Then the bus bars are put down to connect everything, and it allows a specific amount of electricity to transmit through it. And during that process, heat is the byproduct of the electricity flowing from the bus bar side to the other side to actually create or generate the heat that we use for our reptiles. So, why did I record this today? Again, because I dodged a bullet, and thankfully my reptiles are safe, and I wanted to share this aspect with you guys, that this is something that we all need to be aware of, and that it's something that can happen to any of us who's reptile keepers when it comes to using this type of product. And this type of failure type of thing can happen with any size of this stuff or any of those heat mats. It can also happen with the other heat mats that have the other rubber or plastic coating on them that are like the peel and stick kind that you get from a lot of the commercial box stores that's readily available, that a lot of people use for under the tank. Those actually use just a wired filament to achieve the heating process. And those can actually fail a lot easier than this can because it's thinner. And the way that they're manufactured, they have a higher fail point, which is why I normally don't recommend them. And I recommend the heat tape over those peel and stick mats, because this is built to a higher standard, in my opinion. But that's what I wanted to share today with you guys. Again, Luna is perfectly safe. She had very, very minimal exposure to any plastic vapors and everything. I mean, the minute I smelled plastic burning, I immediately was able to identify the area that it was coming in, and I was frantically opening up and finding out exactly where it was, found that it was hers, pulled her right out immediately. Like I said, got the power shut off to make sure that there was no power going to any of that entire rack set, to where I knew that nothing else was going to continuously go down the loop. And like I showed with the rest of it, how that would have literally carried over to the other enclosures in that stack very quickly if I didn't catch it when I did. So, thank you guys all for watching today. If you have any other comments or anything, please do put those comments in the comment section below. And as always, if you like this type of content, this is more spur of the moment, so I'm going to apologize in advance, as I am going to be editing this using AI translation to do the edit, as it's literally not even 24 hours since this happened, so I pushed what I was originally going to post to share this with you guys. And I think that that transparency factor is important when it comes to showing everyone when it comes to being in the reptile community, that it's important to show that failure can happen to any of us. And things do happen, and what we can do to best prepare for it and to mitigate any potential issues of that ever happening again. So, like this video if you haven't done so already here, and if you've made it this far into the video, and if you haven't done so already, please do consider subscribing, and while you're down there, turning on that notification icon, as that will let you know when I do new videos. I do at least one video a week, so until next time, you guys, I love you all. Thanks for watching. I'm Jack, and this is Python Addiction.